All right, let me bring in our amazing panel. Coming back from New York, our correspondent up there from the National Review, Caroline Downey, are going south, heading up all of our Texas efforts. Sara Gonzales of the Blaze, and back with us again, Adam Guillette of the Accuracy in Media. Adam, I don't even know, where are you?
I am in a hotel in Austin. I'm always traveling. I'm in Austin, Texas today. I was in Sarah's neck of the woods earlier this week.
Oh,
He was at my studio, earlier this week.
Oh my God, I didn't even know this. This is Caroline. You got to get yourself down to Texas.
I know. I believe me.
I will say, I going south when it gets cold is always, to me, a nice little bonus. So I will look for an excuse to come down and hang out at the Blaze. Yeah. All right. I want to just start. The president has signed the Epstein file release. I had an unbelievable conversation yesterday with Jessica Reed Krause, who's the author of House and Habit. I was blown away by what she was saying. And I think the big takeaway that I got from her and from Alan Dershowitz earlier this week, Sarah, is we're going to get really disappointed, or a lot of people are, on what's going to come out in this Epstein batch, because it's going to look like there's not enough. People are going to think it's a cover-up, that there's not information, because we're not getting the 302s from the FBI. We're not getting the court documents. And I think a lot of people have built up expectations about what's going to come out. If you looked into Sara Gonzales' crystal balls there at the Blaze studio, do you think in 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now, we're going, oh my goodness, or we're going to be soundly disappointed?
I think people are going to be soundly disappointed. And I think that that's going to be on both sides, because the Democrats have, of course, built up this big story that they claim that Donald Trump was, like, I don't know, the kingpin of child trafficking, even though all of the evidence points to exactly the opposite. And so I think what you're going to hear from the Democrats are Donald Trump's FBI, Donald Trump's DOJ is hiding, is covering for him. It's never going to be enough. And then on the Republican side, they are going to want, of course, a lot more of these Democrats to be able to get the evidence to hang them. And I just don't think that we're going to get that. I will, though, say, Sean, I would like to just posit a little conspiracy theory that I have, just based off of what we do see, just based off of what the Democrats put out last week with the redaction, of course, the intentional redaction, not to protect victims, but to try to get Donald Trump. I feel like Donald Trump, maybe the whole big thing with Donald Trump was that they were hiding that he was the FBI informant. Because remember, a while back, Mike Johnson, in an oopsies moment, said, he was an FBI informant for Epstein. Everyone knows that. And then had to walk it back. And that's one thing that I'm wondering if we get more information on, which would just be so rich in irony. But I just think, other than that, I think there's just going to be a whole lot of disappointment and a whole lot of more conspiracy theories about, what documents are we not seeing?
Caroline, pick up on this thread, because I actually wonder, you think about this, Epstein himself was saying that Trump was a snitch to the cops about a bunch of the stuff with the girls in his own emails. I think Sarah might be onto something.
I honestly think so, too. And the big picture here is that there was no smoking gun pointing to Trump in the latest batch of Epstein file release, which is what the Democrats had hoped there would be. And that redaction was very strategic and very dishonest, especially with regards to the victim, Virginia Giuffre, who unfortunately committed suicide. Because if they had named her, voters or the public who's watching this all very closely unfold would have went into her history and what she has said on the record, which is that Trump and Epstein were never seen together, according to her testimony. And so that would kind of take the oxygen out of one of those narratives that Trump was very complicit in all of this sex trafficking. And, instead of trying to ad hoc release documents according to their agenda to score political points, there's a better way to do this for the sake of transparency for the American public, which I believe was appropriate. This is kind of what the Trump campaign ran on, and it was good that it finally happened. But it needs to be overseen by judges in these cases, and there are quite a few at this point. And that's not only to ensure maximum transparency and also oversight, but so to properly protect the victims, not the way that the Democrats are claiming they're doing that, which is actually to distort and exaggerate what actually happened.
Adam, Larry Summers, the former Treasury Secretary under Obama, and longtime Democratic confidant, I don't know if he's removing himself from public life. He says he is. He's now stepped down from Harvard, from AI, or if they're removing him. But I got to be honest with you, the way that he's doing this makes me think that it's not going to be a good day for him. And I wonder if there are more people that are going to come out that suddenly have to explain, like, what I thought was interesting, let me back up with the conversation from Jessica yesterday, is a lot of this behavior is more unseemly and creepy than maybe illegal. Meaning, if you have a sexual encounter with a 22-year-old woman and you're married, that's a problem. But it's also not illegal, right? So I think the question I will be interested in is a lot of this stuff just salacious, or is there legal issues?
Yeah, I think it's more going to be the salacious nature of it. And really, I'm glad you brought that up. Who had Larry Summers on their bingo board for people that were going to be brought down by the Epstein files? The guy was getting dating advice from Epstein, evidently. My gosh, living a way more interesting life than I think any of us ever would have guessed. How weird. But
do you think that's weird? I don't know. I kind of look and go, if you look, I mean, no offense, Larry Summers is not like some big prize. And so do you wonder if he says, hey, this is like Epstein's going to hook me up?
You think he's going after young ladies, though? I never imagined him going after young girls, or maybe he was just getting generic dating advice. I don't know. I haven't read the details of it. But when I saw that, I was absolutely shocked. And I think we probably will see a couple little other things like that of people who think they might be caught in this and want to get in front of it, because I doubt he really would have stepped down from all of those positions if it was merely getting dating advice. I bet there's more to it, but he gets in front of it. That way, that's the only story that we hear. And when other things happen, we don't think about that instead. I wouldn't be shocked if that happened with other people. But I think Sarah hit the nail on the head. I think we're all largely going to be disappointed to a degree, because people will simply be in denial and think there's always more, there's always more, there's always more. And I think that'll be even larger than the disappointment.
All right, guys, if you need a great night's sleep, do what I do every single night. Use Beam's Dream Powder. Right now, the ultimate cyber discount is available to my listeners only, 50% off, the best deal going that you are going to thank me for, because you're going to sleep better. You're going to stay asleep, wake up feeling refreshed. Go to shopbeam.com/Spicer. Use code Spicer for 50% off for a very, very limited time during their cyber sale. Shopbeam.com/Spicer. Code word Spicer, 50% off.
Caroline, I'm trying to figure out your facial expressions here. Are you disagreeing? Or you think there's more? You don't like the summers? Like what are your concerns here?
I mean, I'm not surprised that academics and high-profile, economists were among some of the high and powerful who were listed in association with Epstein. But the other thing about that is that Epstein knew so many people, so many influential people. It's hard to, make this generalized statement that just by associating they're all, obviously, implicit or there's some degree of guilt there. But what's the weirdest thing to me is that Epstein was basically an advice columnist. I think he missed his calling, actually. I think he should have moonlighted as like someone at Vogue, because the way he corresponded with so many of these people, he was a, jack of all trades when it came to apparently like every single area of expertise and consulting people. And that so many Hollywood figures and political adjacent people relied on him for advice is also bizarre. Like, what about this guy was so magnetizing and so, I guess, brilliant that this is who they went to? It's really interesting.
Can I add one more thing, Sean? Me personally, I don't know about you guys, me personally, what I want from all of this that I don't think that we're going to get is I want to know why the fumble at the beginning of his term, why the fumble with the Epstein files, why were we told it was, by Pam Bondi, it's on my desk, we're going to release it. And then all of a sudden it was like they didn't exist. And I mean, the messaging here, you know me, Sean, I love Donald Trump. I would crawl over broken glass. I would have to have voted for him last election. Like I love the Trump administration. I love Trump 2.0. But I want to know why. I want to know why I was told that it was a Democrat hoax. I want to know why I was told, why are we still talking about this? There's nothing there. And now all of a sudden we're releasing the files that we were told weren't there. I mean, I'm not accusing Donald Trump of anything untoward, because obviously the Democrats would have released it if there was anything there. They would have released it under the 4 years of Joe Biden. But I'm just saying, I want to know why. Is it national security issues? Is it like, what is it? I just want something that makes sense as to to why the messaging has been so terrible on this. I know we're never going to get
No,
it.
we're not.
It is something. No, never. But it is something that I want to know why. I wish we could know.
But don't you think that goes back to your conspiracy theory that if she says, I'm going to release all these, and Trump said, hey, you know what's going to happen when you do this? You're going to expose me because I was talking to the FBI. I mean, again, if that theory that you have actually were true, suddenly because the way I understood that rollout was that it was not coordinated, at least from the people that I talked to at the time. All these people got binders, and I was like, I want a binder. How come I'm not getting one? And then I found out it really doesn't have anything in it. But I also was told that it wasn't really well coordinated with the comm shop there and obviously with the president. Right. And I'm sure that he was like, you're not putting this stuff out there.
Right. Well, right. And then, and to your point, Sean, I felt like the stuff that they did dump with the Virginia Jeffrey email, how they intentionally redacted it, I did feel like it was kind of proving the theory, like, okay, Trump knew and he didn't like it, and then he kicked you out of Mar-a-Lago, and then you hated him because all the other emails suggest that Jeffrey Epstein hates Donald Trump. Like, he's the worst person to the child trafficker, which me personally, I think that's a good thing. But it's like when you look at the timeline of events and you see even the redacted emails, it really does kind of prove that maybe Donald Trump was like his nemesis for that particular reason. I just want it all to make sense. And it's frustrating that I just don't think it ever will.
All right. I want to play you guys a video. There's this woman, Stacey Plaskett. She was texting with Epstein. Okay. During a hearing, texting with Epstein about whatever. And apparently he was living in or a resident of the Virgin Islands at the time because that's where she represents. She goes on CNN and they actually asked her about this. I want to play you guys the clip from CNN of her explaining that exchange with Epstein. Take a look.
I believe that Jeffrey Epstein had information and I was going to get information to get at the truth. Having a real friendship with him is not something that I would deem to have. And so I'm just looking forward. I'm moving forward. And I think that that's what we as American people should do, is move forward. If individuals are not involved in illegal activity, extending his criminal enterprise or his financial enterprise or all of those things, I think that we need to look at what people are doing moving forward.
Wait, let me just better understand that. What is that point? Because at the time he was a known sex offender and it had been detailed all the sexual abuse.
There are a lot of people who have done a lot of crimes. And as a prosecutor, you get information from people where you can.
Okay, so Adam, you get information. She's not a prosecutor. I mean, like, she's a delegate from the Virgin Islands. He's in a hearing and he's texting her about Michael Cohen's testimony. Okay, and he is a known sex offender at this time. And her answer is like she's Matlock. She's like, I was investigating. Like, I don't understand how this is not getting more attention, because if everybody's bad and here she is texting with the guy in the middle of a hearing when he was known to have done all this bad stuff, and she's acting like somehow that she was the lead investigator on the case.
Yeah, I think it was summed up really well. I forgot who made the point that we shouldn't assume terrible things of anybody who was within a half a mile of Jeffrey Epstein at any point in their life. You know, just because somebody might have known the guy doesn't mean they did anything nefarious or were even aware of what he was doing. But to be offering him guidance in a situation like that, like their BFFs, is definitely a bad look. I'm surprised the censure failed, but it's definitely a bad look. And for her to spin it and say, oh, no, I was trying to investigate, is probably one of the saddest defenses I've seen, even if she was eloquent, we'll say.
Caroline, I feel like Democrats, I've said this now for a while, I think Democrats are going to be regretting what they wished for, that these exchanges, there was a Hakeem Jeffries fundraising email that went out to him. There's a lot of people that probably knew them that were texting with him. I think that they are going to rue the day that this happened.
Yeah, no, I think you're probably right about that. And I also just think about how Democrats take a long leash to reprimand all sorts of Republicans for much more minor things than this. And they are not censoring this delegate, even though she was corresponding with known sex trafficker, notorious Jeffrey Epstein, who was feeding her advice. I just don't understand how this guy was like this omniscient, like, consultant to the stars on all things legislation and dating. It's like, where did this, I don't get it. And clearly I need to do a deeper dive into how Jeffrey Epstein became like this kingmaker of all things high society and, the political upper echelons. But it's pretty remarkable. And yeah, I just think the optics of this for Democrats is going to backfire, especially when a lot of these files turn up, I presume, pretty empty, which is what they were hoping to pin it all on Trump. And it doesn't appear to be going that way so far.
Yeah, it'll be interesting also how the media plays this, because to me, that's the other, like, they all shot they really all wanted this. They finally got it. And now I'm like, now you're going to have to report on these Democrats like Larry Summers and Stacey Plaskett and all these other things that you guys didn't want to, you didn't think were going to come out. But it'll be interesting to see. I want to talk about this video I mentioned at the beginning. So before we get into it, I just want to play it for everyone so we know what we're talking about, because this is a bunch of Democrats, members of Congress, and a message that they put out on Senator Slotkins from Michigan, her X feed. So take a look, and then we'll talk about it on the backside.
I'm Senator Alyssa Slotkin.
Senator Mark Kelly.
Representative Chris Deluzio.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
Congressman Jason Crow.
I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy.
Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
and the intelligence community
who take risks each day
to keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens.
Like us. You all swore an oath
to protect and defend this Constitution.
Right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad,
but from right here at home.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law
or our Constitution.
We know this is hard,
and that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
the Army,
or Navy,
the Air Force,
your vigilance is critical.
And know that we have your back.
Because now, more than ever,
the American people need you.
We need you to stand up for our laws,
our Constitution,
and who we are as Americans. Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up the ship.
Caroline Downey, I don't even know where to start with this. I honestly, I watched it and then I rewatched it. I'm like, what is going on here? Is there a mission that I'm unaware of that is about to take off that they're telling people it's not lawful? Like, I literally, this seems like it came out of nowhere. And there's so many mixed messages here about like the idea, don't give up the ship is a Navy call. Mm-hmm. Captain James Lawrence back in the War of 1812, like that was, so I'm like, what are we doing here? I don't understand what they're trying to do here. And I don't know if you've covered it or like, yeah, this literally was like, what the heck are you guys doing?
We've covered it at National Review. We know exactly what they're trying to do here, which is appeal to military credentials to give themselves more credibility so that, in Alyssa Slotkin's words, they are no longer perceived by the American people as weak and woke. So this is a hollow military, force veneer that they're putting over their party, because you remember what they did on the campaign trail with Tim Walz. They put forward some former service member, and then it turned out he was lying about having served in Afghanistan. You think about how Graham Plattner is one of their new hopeful candidates in Maine, and he was photographed with what appeared to be Antifa. No matter how they try to signal that they care about the military and they care about service members, it just falls flat. And I say this as the daughter of a West Point graduate, and he was a captain in the Vietnam War. Look, Trump doesn't have the military on his record. He avoided serving, and yet there was no better champion of our military might and our men and women in uniform than him. And the Democratic Party, they're trying to reform their image right now through apparently video campaigns like this, which seem to me to be undermining the commander-in-chief's authority, at least indirectly. If they're saying you can refuse orders, that's questionable. Legally, I don't know. But the bottom line is that the Democrats have no credibility when it comes to the military.
Well, let me talk to you about the law then. because 18 U.S. Code 2387 says the following. It makes it illegal to distribute written or printed matter that urges insubordination, disloyalty, mutiny, or refusal of duty by members of the U.S. Armed Forces. Penalties include conviction, fines, etc. This statute is part of the chapter on treason, sedition, and subversive activities and defines military or naval forces in the United States to include the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine Corps. Sarah, I thought they were encouraging insubordination, trying to get the word out. Hey, you don't need to abide by orders. You don't need to do that. And I found that to be very, very dangerous to the young people out there who hear them and say, oh, I didn't know that. Because where's that line? Like, if I hate to be honest, like you're 23, 24 years old and you decide that, well, I don't want to go to Guam for the weekend on this ship. I'm going to refuse that order. They're sowing distrust and disloyalty among service members.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, of course they are, because they miss the good old days. They miss the heydays of Trump 1.0, where he had a lot of problems within, his administration and within all of these, the FBI, the military, the DOJ. I mean, you had all of these agencies that there were a lot of people, it turns out, who thought that they knew better than Donald Trump and who were completely subverting what he told them to do and what his administration was there to carry out. And I think that these people are very upset that they don't have that stronghold. They don't have that. I don't want to say that there's not a deep state apparatus still happening, because I think that there is. You can't clear it all out in, a year. But what I'm saying is they don't have the deep state stronghold that they once had, and they can't stand it. And so instead, these failed theater kids are going to go out there and make this dumb video, which, by the way, I think even CNN was like, what did you mean? Like, what are you? Tell us more. This isn't going to really spell it out. But I would just like to say, I would have loved this same energy during COVID when they were actually giving us unlawful orders and they were forcing, military members to get an experimental jab or else they were going to lose their jobs. I would have loved to have seen that same energy on the Constitution.
Oh, no. I'm going to tell you this. Right now, I saw military. I mean, remember, it's such a great example you're bringing up. They told people at the time, if you don't take that jab, we're going to put you out.
Yep. Right. Exactly right. So where was that Constitution, pro-Constitution energy back then from all of these people? I mean, like I said, they're failed theater kids. They don't believe in any of this. They're just mad that they don't have the stronghold that they once had with the former Trump administration, because he learned his lesson, it appears, in, trusting all of these deep staters to actually do what he said. And it's just really disgusting.
Adam, you guys do a lot of monitoring and watching the media. To Sarah's point, I saw on Fox News, Jason Crow, that gentleman got asked by Martha McCallum, what do you mean? And he starts going off about the rule of law and all this stuff. And again, you're telling military members you don't have to obey an order. And she kept saying to him, what order are you, like, what mission is it? I mean, somebody speculated, maybe they're talking about Venezuela and saying, you don't have to go invade a foreign country if you don't want. Again, I'm not sure that's true. Dershowitz says that it's completely legal, but they can't point for the very few times they've actually been asked, what order are you talking about? What mission are you talking about?
All this is PR spin and positioning. It's just them trying to make it seem like that many of the things that Trump is doing are so incredibly unconstitutional, and they've got to make sure the American people know it. It's nothing more than that. And I am quite confident that very few members of the military are looking to Congress for leadership. Congress is full of followers, not leaders. These people follow the polls. They follow the money. They follow their constituents. They're not leaders. Members of the military know their rights. So it's all just an act. Yeah, they are allowed to follow or allowed to refuse illegal orders. And also, honestly, I think when you sign up for the military, part of the gig is you're going to have to take medicines that you may or may not want to take. That's part of the gig. They have to get all kinds of wacky experimental vaccines and medicines, whether they like it or not. So they're entirely aware of what the rules are, what the law is. But nothing makes me laugh more, though, when I see these guys crowing about how much they love the Constitution, as if they're all running around with little pocket Cato Constitutions in their hands. They don't give a darn about the Constitution, and we all know it. You can't convince people of something they don't know, and no one buys that these people are pro-military or pro-Constitution.
Yeah, I still can't figure out the whole don't give up the ship thing. I mean, DeLuzio served in the Navy. Mark Kelly served in the Navy. But I'm like, Alyssa Slotkin, like, she never served in the military. And she's talking about don't give up the ship. Like, again, that was a War of 1812 battle. It became a battle cry for the Navy going forward. And suddenly I literally continue to be baffled by this because
failed theater kids, Sean.
I know. I like that. I like failed theater kids. All right, I want to move on because there's another thing that came out this week that similarly did not get a lot of attention. And it's this revelation about Crooks, the guy, Thomas Crooks, the guy who tried to kill President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. The thing that I think is interesting is at the time, remember, we were told, like, oh, we can't find anything about this guy. Like, he's a ghost. He's got no digital footprint. And the thing that was so interesting, Caroline Downey, is over and over again now we found out that was not true, that the FBI actually did have a massive footprint on this guy, fingerprint, handprint, whatever you want to call it. We know that he had a lot of accounts. He was being, what do they call it? Like, he's gone far to the left. And I feel like, again, this is another example of us that we were gaslit. We're a year out from this Butler, Pennsylvania thing, and we still know nothing.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's the same thing. It reminds me of the Epstein case, in that when you delay and claim you know nothing for so long, again, we already have record low trust in so many of our institutions, including the intelligence community. You are exacerbating that by great lengths. And you know what? I also think of the Charlie Kirk assassination and how the alleged killer, confessed to the crime on Discord, which, depending on who you ask, is like adjacent to the dark web. And Thomas Crooks, no doubt, had some very nefarious, online activities before as well. And of course that our intelligence apparatus had this. There's no way that they didn't. And yet it's concealed from the public. And I think it's a scandal of epic proportions. And my question is why? Why would you pretend like you didn't actually know the facts of the case? And I think it could have implications potentially for 2026.
Sarah, the thing that's so interesting in the Federalist, they write, Biden administration hid online footprint of Trump's would-be assassin. The Biden administration hid critical information about Thomas Matthew Crooks, the person who shot President Donald Trump and 3 others in Butler, Pennsylvania through the 2024 election. To Caroline's point, I don't get the why. Like, is it just that because he was one of yours, you wanted to hide this and you didn't think it would eventually come out?
And I think the simple answer is yes, that's correct. I mean, we saw how the administration and Democrats by and large acted when Donald Trump won the first time around. They just never thought that it was going to happen. They weren't prepared for it. They thought Hillary was coming in and they thought all of their secrets were going to be kept. I think that the same thing applies here. And I think that it's much more intentional than that, because you did have an actual FBI spokesperson going and testifying that this Thomas Crooks character was Republican. He was pro-Trump, which he was until he wasn't. Well, they left that part out. And so when you see the way that they testified, with the minor hearings that they did have, the way that they testified, this guy was a Trump guy, lying by omission, I think you can tell that this was very intentional, that they just wanted to say it was a Trump guy, let it go away. That's all we're going to share. But the most disappointing thing has been, to Caroline's point, has been the way that our FBI has handled this, right? I mean, we voted Donald Trump in. We wanted transparency. We thought our guys are going to be at the top of things. We're finally going to get answers. And this told trust us, bro mentality, I just don't think flies anymore. I mean, it's not possible. It is just not possible. Well, here, let me put it this way. Only one of these things can be true. Either the FBI had him on their radar, which is what I believe to be true, because how could they possibly not? Either the FBI had him on their radar and they either didn't act, they got to him, they brainwashed him. And there are a lot of scenarios there, but either the FBI had him on their radar or they are so incompetent that they couldn't catch the guy who was threatening presidents, to assassinate lawmakers online, which is what we learned. So only one of those things can be true. Both of them are bad. And we really do need answers from this, from our FBI that we thought we were going to get transparency from.
Adam, there's very little curiosity in the media as to, I mean, again, this guy tries to kill the president of the United States, actually does hit him. And a year later, we know virtually nothing, but we do know now that the FBI did cover up and lie. I mean, that's no question about it. Like, they were like, there's nothing to see here. And now we find out that there was a lot there. To me, another example of like, we're being gaslit as citizens about, these guys aren't 51 intelligence agents. This is not true. This, someone randomly brought cocaine into the White House. It happens all the time. Like, all of these things, and somehow we're just supposed to believe. Same thing with the Epstein files. Like, there's nothing there. Just keep looking the other way and march on.
Yeah, and to Sarah's point, when dealing with government employees, incompetence is always a safe bet. They're not clever enough for conspiracies. Just go with they're stupid, and you're probably right. Now,
but hold on, Adam. They were able to track down anyone within within the confines of DC, anyone who had been there on January 6, 2021, they were able to track down grandmas waving American flags, but we know nothing about Thomas Crooks. That's shady.
I believe that they knew about Thomas Crooks. And remember, the January 6th thing took them quite some time, and I'm sure it was the number one project they were focused on for the entire department for a year. It's not as if these people are amazingly solving the crime every day for a 22-minute episodic TV show. That's not how they are. But no, what frustrates me most with this is it's a great reminder that we have rulers, not public servants. If we had public servants, they would give us all of the information right away because they work for us and we pay their salaries. They didn't do that because maybe they thought we wouldn't like the information during a presidential election. Well, that suggests you have rulers, people who make decisions for you, who get to determine what you do or do not know. And as Caroline said, that's why trust in all of our institutions is so incredibly low. I think it's 22% of Americans trust the media. I wonder how many really trust the FBI. And it's because these institutions have all been captured by the left. They become incredibly politicized. So the only people who still really like them are the ones who share their ideology.
So there's this constant through line that we keep talking about of being gaslit, not being told the truth, and the undermining of what's going on by government officials. And there was something that happened this week, again, didn't get a ton of attention, but I think continues to fall into this trend. The president sent federal agents down to Charlotte, North Carolina. And I want to play you a clip from the news down there about one of the things that happened as a result of that. Take a look.
Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools now seeing an increase in student absences amid Operation Charlotte's Web. New numbers now show more than 30,000 students missed class Monday. District leaders say that's about 21%, or 1 in 5 CMS students. So this is up from around 20,000 the district previously reported. CMS says around 28,000 of those 30,000 absences were unexcused. The district isn't now commenting on how many of those are tied to Border Patrol enforcement.
Okay, Caroline, 30,000 kids don't show up on the day that Border Patrol shows up in the city. 21% of the entire student population. You think there's a connection?
Yes, I do. And I don't think it's mostly the children of families who are protesting the ICE raids in Charlotte. I think what it more likely is that, which the data backs up, our social safety net is subsidizing and supporting illegal aliens en masse. And that applies to hospitals, that applies to schools. We know this for a fact. They are a big strain on the taxpayers. So yeah, I think it's a pretty safe bet. But also, I think it's funny how the media they're trying to portray this as, Well, also, so that not only is the Trump administration engaging in these horrible optics and campaigns to, take people away from their families and deport them, but also they're taking them out of school, out of the classroom, denying them learning. Okay, I'd like a much more concerted expose and a reckoning, which is still overdue, on the school shutdowns during COVID that cost immense learning loss among children in K through 12, so much so that their academic outcomes are in the toilet and probably will never recover. And that's because of the teachers' unions who conspired with the CDC and the Biden administration at the time to prolong those shutdowns. Let's go back to that. If you really want to talk about, these kids showing up to school or not showing up to school and who's really being let down here. That's my take.
Sarah, just for fun. So it said 30,000 kids didn't show up, 21%. Let's just for fun say that that's off by 50%. and that it was only 10,000 kids that didn't show up because they were not in this country legally. That to me is just an astonishing number. The idea, I mean, to Caroline's point about what a strain this is putting financially and otherwise on our school systems. She mentioned the hospitals and everything else, right? That's true. But think about that. This to me is something that no one wants to talk about on the left or in the media. That, wow, think about that. 1/5 potentially of the students in the Charlotte Mecklenburg school system potentially are there in this country illegally, and no one wants to discuss that.
Yeah, I mean, and to Caroline's point, I don't think that it was an illegal alien flu outbreak. It was quite obviously, that's how many people we are subsidizing. Listen, there's been a conversation happening on X right now about property taxes with Ron DeSantis, talking about trying to abolish property taxes in Florida. And I entered that conversation to try to make a point, because here in the state of Texas, we know about this problem. Okay. The illegals coming into the schools, we know far better than any other state how much of a drain it can be on our finances with specific regard to the school districts. And so I said how much I pay an absurd amount of money in property taxes, most of which goes to schools, so that we can then turn around and spend that money on a bunch of illegal aliens. There's a Fort Worth school district that they calculated that they thought about 40% of the students in that district were illegals. I mean, this is economically unsustainable. And it's what our main argument was whenever we had the Biden administration letting all these people in. This is not sustainable. We cannot pay for these people to live here. We cannot pay for their schooling. We cannot pay for their Medicaid. We cannot pay for their hospital visits. This is not sustainable, and it will be felt for decades, is what our argument was. So, I mean, kudos to Tom Homan. I hope that they continue getting these people out at an accelerated rate, because again, this is not sustainable.
We had much higher rates of economic growth during the massive waves of immigration in the late 19th and early 20th century. And no, I certainly don't want any kind of big welfare state for anybody, legal or illegal. But in terms of schools, they're paying property taxes through their rent. They're paying sales taxes each and every day. If they were here legally, they'd probably get an earned income tax credit. But since they're illegal, they're not getting that, which I think we'd all probably prefer, as opposed to another handout going to them. So to say that they just dramatically crushed the economy and are a massive drain on services, I don't think the numbers work on that.
Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.